live show.
Okay, wait. I got to turn on my tool here.
Yeah, you do.
That's what she said.
And
come on, John. Let's keep
it
civil.
I just like press that and it starts. Yep. Okay, I'm going.
you see levels on your machine?
I see levels on my H1. Yeah, on the Zoom.
Great. And test one, I need higher levels than that. Increase. Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So right now we've got Google Hangouts. We've got I'm recording Tascam local backup, and I'm going to begin recording Zencaster. And we will stop periodically to have this upload. I think that's what we'll do.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea.
Do it in chunks.
Do it in chunks. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. I don't have any theme music or anything, so we're just going to jump in. Does anybody have questions before we go?
No, I think we surprised John.
Surprised John. With okay.
Man, don't pull the underwear over the head again.
Well, that'll be kind of hard since you're like, half the country away. And Chad's like all the country away.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is.
Every country. Hey, what's your company again?
Promethean Games, Inc.
You have a position, president?
Yeah.
Founder?
President.
President? All right. All ready? Hello, and welcome to the Miskatonic University Podcast, episode 125. This is the podcast dedicated to Call of Cthulhu and other horror and Lovecraft-related role-playing games. I'm Keeper Chad.
I'm Keeper John, and in this episode, we've got a ringer, Max. Welcome.
Hey, Max.
Hello, guys. Thank you for having me on. This is Max, or you might know me as Mahafa on the forums. And thanks again for having me here, guys. Here to pick your brain with some sanity and mind-bending mythos-related topics.
Awesome.
Our brains are finger-licking good, I'll tell you that.
Okay.
So Max is a regular on Skype of Cthulhu, if you are not clear, and he also serves as president of Promethean Games, Inc. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about a whole potpourri of topics that Max brings to the table in a kind of round table style guest chat.
We're talking about potpourri today?
Yes.
Well, I was going to say tables. I mean, table got used a lot there.
Did it? Wait, round table to the table. You're right. Oh, that's horrible. Oh, yuck. Well, let's take a trip to the campus.
Chad's not a professional or anything.
Nope, I do not get paid. That is correct. The Campus Crier is Miskatonic U's student paper, and here's where we go through mythos-related news and feedback to the podcast. And this episode was recorded on June 12th, 2017.
That's today.
Well, it's actually in the past. I don't want to split hairs, but...
No. I've traveled back through time. I'm already still in the past listening to it live.
Whoa.
I just failed my sand check and my int check for understanding that.
So first up, we have some kind of big news, or news that made a moderate splash in the Cthulhu community. Chaosium has launched new licensing policies, a kind of three-tiered range of licenses that you can get to produce Call of Cthulhu material using all the proprietary monsters and stats and rules and whatnot that are covered in the license. And so there's a range, and it goes from fan-generated material to a limited license and then a commercial license. and some new language came out that raised some eyebrows. There's a couple of stories that came out of this. One is, so just to briefly go over the tiers here, the fan-generated material guidelines are for non-commercial use, and it talks about how to do that, what sort of credits you need to give and that kind of thing. And that's good stuff. And, for people who want to create free material, that's not for whatever.
Resale?
Yeah. Heavily editing that part of my intro. So then you have a limited license that offers small publishers and individuals an opportunity to produce limited run game material for use with any of the games, including Call of Cthulhu. And so that's like fanzines and convention scenarios or one-off books. And those can be commercial products, but there's a limit to the gross sales revenue. They can't exceed $2,000 per year. And for sure, you cannot crowdfund using Kickstarter or Indiegogo or any of those things for products under the small publisher limited license.
So, Chad, would we say that this significantly limits the one-time Kickstarter idea for a Call of Cthulhu scenario?
Yes, this definitely gives Chaosium the ability to say, we don't know who you are. You're running a one-time thing, and we're not going to let you use this system and the proprietary stuff for it. So no thanks. We're not going to do it.
Okay.
It doesn't. Go ahead.
Back to that in a minute. Continue with the.
Right. So that's kind of dust up number one, because that's new, and people have been sort of ad hoc doing one-off Kickstarters. There's been a few of them. Many have been successful, I will say, and a very few have not been successful or are still sort of languishing. So we'll put a pin in that. And then there's the commercial license, which covers licensees that we already kind of are familiar with. That's Arkham Gazette, that's Golden Goblin, or actually Sentinel Hill Press, Golden Goblin Press, Modifius. I'm not going to name them all, but you know who they are, Stygian Fox. So those guys are kind of operating on a different level. They're known quantities, and they can do Kickstarters just like they've always have been. There was some language there. This is basically resolved by the time this episode drops. This will already be clear to everyone. But it raised some eyebrows that there was some language that said that they require an advance on royalties for the commercial license. So they take a percentage of gross sales as a royalty, including for Kickstarter, and that language up front. Before
sale, yes, which is
that's right.
Big.
But this advance, well, it's not clear what upfront meant, and this raised eyebrows because the licensees, and I did a little digging. I talked to a bunch of licensees, and I'm just going to pull out common threads so nobody's complaint, some concerns get particularly singled out. But a common thread was, wait a minute, does this mean I'm going to have to pay upfront for royalties? And it was a pretty common concern, if not outright reading of that text. It turns out I went and talked to Chaosium, and they answered this question for us. They changed their language on their website to make this more clear. Did I not put... Yeah, I'm actually going to have to open the email I sent to you guys. Clarify this. Sorry, guys. All right, so I sent a question to Chaosium, and it came back that they changed the language from it said we may require an advance on royalties, which confused some people. And now it reads, in general, Chaosium collects a percentage of gross sales as a royalty, and under certain circumstances may also require an advance on royalties. The exact percentage of and dollar amounts are only negotiated after we have seen what the company is proposing to do. And so Mike is the person who sent this answer to me. I'm not sure. I think it just comes from the company in general, not attributed, but it says, we have the advance on royalties as an option for licensees we haven't worked with before, and for foreign language translations, particularly fiction. For crowdfunding, e.g. Kickstarter, we require our royalties to be paid 10 days after the project's funds come through. So that's after funding. That's not before a Kickstarter.
Very nice. I mean, that clarification is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really nice. Good.
Yeah, I'm glad that was clarified, because it made there was a bit of a eyebrows were raised, and this has already been resolved. The people who were concerned have already presumably read this. So, but they gave us that answer specifically to read for the podcast. But that brings us back to the Kickstarter issue.
Now, if I may,
please.
I actually don't see this as a big deal at all. Mainly because this, in my opinion, this just looks like Chaosium is finally kind of standing up and putting on their big boy pants, and they're saying, look, we're a legitimate company. I mean, granted, they've been out here 30 years, but they're saying, look, we have a viable intellectual property, and it behooves Chaosium to protect that IP. So in your two examples of, there have been previous Kickstarters that have been successful, and then there have been other Kickstarters out there that have not been successful, which really, it's only going to be those two sides of the coin. In both those cases, prior to this language, Chaosium ends up being the loser. And it's their IP. I mean, they're the ones who have come up with everything, and as far as the mechanics and everything that these people are creating adventures for, that leverage these mechanics, because they are well designed and popular. But on the successful Kickstarters, there's a possible, depending upon how that Kickstarter was run. I'm not saying this is across the board. I'm just talking about the fringe, the outliers, the ones that did not try and have a relationship with Chaosium prior to running their Kickstarter. So this statement does not apply to any of our regular known quantities here. But some of these outlier guys, if they have a successful Kickstarter, they've been able to do that without having to pay their dues up to Chaosium. And then those who have, again, these outliers who haven't established a relationship with Chaosium, if they have a Call of Cthulhu adventure type of Kickstarter and it fails, that failure has the potential to damage the Chaosium IP. I don't see this change, from my perspective. I don't see this as a bad thing at all, especially when I kind of compare this to other companies and other things that have a history of fan material being created. In particular, I'm thinking about Star Trek. For a long time, fans would make hour length long or less, or sometimes longer, but they would make these movies, put them out for free on YouTube. None of these movies were being made for profit. I mean, no one was that bold to try and do that. But they would make these movies for free, and they would try and make them so that they felt canonical, even though everyone knew that they weren't. And after the Star Trek Axanar issue, where they were able to successfully raise via Kickstarter over $1 million, Paramount and CBS were like, well, where's our cut of that? And so, now CBS and Paramount have come out with new IP licensing, radically hampers and handcuffs fans in the types of things that they can create. I don't feel like I'm seeing in this language, as far as it applying to Kickstarters, where the small publisher limited license is not available for that. I don't see that as a big deal, because again, it sounds like, especially with the language that we received in the email after they've had an opportunity to kind of revise some of this language, it doesn't sound like Chaosium is trying to put up an iron curtain. It sounds like they're trying to put up a safety net. And for companies and people that go open-handed and try and have a relationship with Chaosium and say, hey, let's build something together, I bet they're able to come to mutual understandings and come to a license agreement that would be beneficial for both parties. And so that when someone, if they say, I want to raise a Kickstarter and, run a Kickstarter to try and raise money for this, I bet they'll be able to find a way to make that happen to where it's a equitable deal for both parties. But that's just my perspective, and maybe I've jumped in too early. I hope I haven't tread on anybody.
Well, I mean, you mean here?
Yeah, but you guys.
No, well, Max, what do you think? I have some thoughts, but I will say I'm reluctant to backseat run anybody's company.
Yeah.
But I can't help. I also can't help my opinions flowing out on this talk radio show.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think it's a good thing. Ultimately, it's a good thing. Like you said, John, Chaosium needs to protect their IP. I mean, especially Chaosium's had its ups and downs over the years,
Sure.
Who can fault them for wanting to protect their IP and create good and, worthwhile community and business relationships in the future for things that are going to even further their IP to get into more people's hands. So I can't fault them for that. The wording, I would say maybe might put some small time one-off people on guard, but ultimately Chaosium's a business. If someone pitches them an idea and they don't know them, if it's a good enough idea, I mean, I don't see Chaosium as the type of business to turn away good ideas. So
Me neither.
yeah, I agree. I think after hearing what you said, I would say it's definitely all a good thing. Also, that being said, a lot of Lovecraft and the associated mythos fiction are pretty much public domain. So I mean, I don't see why, if someone didn't want to pay royalties, it wouldn't be very difficult for them to create something non-Chaosium based. But then again,
yeah, not non-Chaosium based, sure.
You go to Call of Cthulhu because that's what you want to do, and if you want to do that, then you have to play by their rules.
Exactly.
well,
Exactly.
I will say in my poking around various licensees and small timers who are not licensed or aspiring licensees, that there is a common concern, not for everybody, but some people are concerned about the potential chilling effect that you just sort of mentioned, that this could drive people who are interested in Lovecraftian game storytelling, I'm not even sure what we call it, scenario writing, may just decide, well, these restrictions are more intense than they are for Trail of Cthulhu. They're more intense, certainly, than they are for Cthulhu Dark. it will be easier for me to enter the field of Lovecraftian writing
Right.
using other IPs.
A different system. Right.
Yeah. Right. So that's the concern overall in sort of long term, is that there may be an effect of having talented people who just are not confident yet go to some other system.
And I think that is a possibility where some of that talent, especially if it's a new talent, fledgling talent as far as the grand public is concerned, where some of those talents may be hesitant or lost and not sure how to proceed forward. But, we run a podcast and we can help remind people that the Call of Cthulhu community is huge. And if you think you have a good idea for a Call of Cthulhu scenario, and these licensing agreements may not fit for you as an individual person, fit into your budget, say to purchase a license, or just, it's too constraining for you as an individual person, maybe you can reach out and start meeting some of the other people in the Call of Cthulhu community. And
licensees
and start
trying to
the different licensees. I myself, I've done and continue to do publications of adventures through Goodman Games. They have a license with Chaosium. As it stands right now, I look around, I'm the only person, doing Age of Cthulhu adventures. So I would love to have some company. If you think you've got a good idea, contact Joseph Goodman. See if it's something that he would like to publish as an Age of Cthulhu adventure. Or if that doesn't work, see if it's something that he might be able to accept in Golden Goblin. Or contact Stygian Fox. Reach out, try and find someone and say, hey, what do you think of this idea? Also, reach out to Chaosium directly. You might have such a great idea that they would want to find a way to publish it as a bona fide Chaosium product, Yeah. And if all else fails, turn it into a different mechanic, Maybe go Cthulhu Dark with Graham Walmsley. Maybe do, Pelgrane Press and find a way to do it with the Trail of Cthulhu, something like that, But, find something else and But there are other avenues out there. So hopefully, if those talents are out there and if they can hear my voice and hear our voices, they might realize that I'm not alone in this and I have other options available to me if the new licensing agreement language is too restrictive for whatever reason, whatever his particular scenario is, so maybe it would be beneficial to reach out and get a partner.
Well, and even I would say I don't know, personally, the best advice, if you want to write something and you want to have it licensed and you want to go with Chaosium, just write them, call them. What the worst thing that ever can happen is someone says no. And then guess what?
Absolutely.
You've got other options. So don't be afraid to make that first move.
Yeah. All right. Well, I sort of wish that we could have ended on that instead of what I have to say, which is a little.
Well,
all right, Chad, bring us down a notch.
Come on, Chad.
Because
I've steeled myself.
the most important thing to me is that we have a healthy farm team, that there is a vibrant and enticing, alluring way to enter the world of Cthulhu game writing or just horror game writing in general. And I agree that this is not a slamming of the door shut. The lack of being able to do a Kickstarter or crowdfund of some kind does not slam the door. And in fact, there's a really good conversation between parties on YSDC that we'll link to about this. And Rick Meintz, it sort of has, at this point, on June 12th, has had the last word, but he said he's talking to Dean Engelhardt, who is a small producer. He does a lot of stuff for free. He's the Cthulhu and Convicts guy. And he has expressed some very serious concerns about whether he will really continue, because he's kind of on that edge case. Like he's not large enough to be Golden Goblin level, but he's kind of like a fan creator and maybe would like to do a one shot every once in a while that he can kickstart and get those sweet crowdfund dollars that people who do well, and people know Dean in the community, but he's he hasn't well, they know him well. He's actually quite a known quantity, and probably in that case,
this is Dean Engelhardt from Australia, correct?
Yeah. So he's he's a designer. He's done all those autofill, AutoCalc sheets that you probably have used.
Yeah. I would bet that Dean would have, if he was open for it, would have no problem partnering with Chaosium directly, or Stygian Fox, or Cubicle 7. All of those companies, I think, have the kind of caliber that he would be a shoo-in for.
Sure. I don't think he's a guy. I mean, he's such a weird case because he does so many things for free. So he's very, very well published, but he's been doing this stuff for free for so long that it puts him in a weird category. Yeah. I don't think he's going to go. I would love to see him in some of these other publishers. But for one thing, these licensees all have a very specific remit. They all have a very specific kind of niche carved out. You can for good reasons, right? Goodman Games does these great pulp adventures that, it has a look, it has a feel, it has a pool of writers. You know what I mean? It has a specific cuisine is offered there. And the same is true of Golden Goblin. This certainly the same is true of Sentinel Hill Press, which has a fairly narrow Lovecraft Country mission. Stygian has carved out this kind of adult themes in scenarios, that kind of thing. So the question is, what if
a lot of modern stuff with Stygian?
Yeah, right. But not all niches are covered, and in fact, I'm very interested in seeing more niches appear.
Me
and
too.
I wish, I mean, it's another edge case. Although he was a known quantity, Dave Sokolowski's Sunspots, that was a one-shot Kickstarter. I mean, actually, he did He Who Last for Cthulhu Dark and Chaosium first. Oh God, I might have to correct that because I don't remember if that was for Chaosium or not.
No, not originally. It was originally for another company, and then secondarily another company after that, and then tertiary this Kickstarter.
Right, but he ended up writing it for Chaosium, I think, didn't he? Even He Who Last. No, he didn't. Sunspots was the thing that
Sun's talking about Sunspots. I'm sorry.
3 incarnations. Anyway, geez, it doesn't matter. I didn't want to belabor this.
I mean, it's very topical. I mean, especially for me, I have a small game business that I would like to grow in the future, and I'm lucky enough to have been in the community for long enough where I have a good dialogue with people such as yourselves and other people in the publishing and Chaosium community, such as Mike Mason and other people. I mean, I've been lucky enough to talk to people like that, so I have a way to talk to them. But still, I mean, it's just another game, just like anyone else's. I mean, just don't be afraid to get out there. That's the best. Yeah,
that's the message I would like to have to leave behind as we look at this topic maybe later and see how things develop. But I do want to ask Rick Meintz in his last post. I was trying to get to this, that he said, look, Kickstarter isn't the only way to get your stuff out. And I would say that that's true. Even though Kickstarter itself is hot now, it is very enticing. It does inspire people to do cool stuff. So I'm not done saying I might be mourning this this policy change. However, you can still put out a print on demand through Drive-Thru RPG or Lulu or other platforms with a limited license. You just can't kickstart or crowdfund.
Sure.
Right. There's options. There's options. It's you know, it's they didn't put up a wall. They put up a nice white and black Shagati picket fence.
There you go. You know, here's something that, as far as I can tell, the Cthulhu, Call of Cthulhu community does not have that some other gaming communities do have, which is a really thriving zine. A really thriving zine scene.
Right.
You know, so I'm also associated, you know, I try to associate myself with the Goodman Games Dungeon Crawl Classics games, and that is one of those OSR games where it's, you know, the old school Renaissance, you know. So even though DCC is new, it harkens and tries to emulate gaming as if you're in 1976, and part of that community is an incredibly vibrant and feral sometimes zine, you know, small press zine scene, and these guys, they're not kickstarting. None of this stuff is being kickstarted. They're doing conventions. They're doing low print run zines, and you know, these guys they're getting followings and they're getting popular, and there are other small companies that are doing OSR material or you know, Dungeon Crawl Classics licensed materials, and these authors and artists who are contributing to this, you know, small niche zine scene are getting recognized, because the only people picking up their materials are the people who are interested in those materials. You know, it's a very kind of thing, and it's, if you can get in at that level, you end up getting exposure. Maybe, hopefully, one of the side effects of Chaosium's new licensing product is maybe anyone who picks up and is granted a small publisher limited license, maybe they get into something where they're doing, you know, low print run zines, or they're hitting, you know, conventions and that kind of thing, and this becomes something that almost has guerrilla marketing.
Yeah.
And it's going to take time. It's going to take time. I mean, think about Delta Green.
Right. Coming from Unspeakable Oath and
coming from the Unspeakable Oath.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I totally
overnight.
agree. And I'd really like to see somebody step up and do that. In fact, I was brainstorming, daydreaming, knowing full well that it's not a thing that I particularly want to do, but somebody could.
We've tried. We've tried and failed doing a zine.
Oh, I know. Right. That's right. And zines come and go, man. Like, they're hard. That's the thing.
Well, and I think one of the few Mythos related zines out there is, or the only one I really know about, is the Blasphemous Tome from the Good Friends. And unfortunately, I think you mentioned in a recent episode that Proto Dimension had ceased to be.
Right, but Dark,
which is unfortunate.
Dark, yeah, but it's
Dark Times.
It's reincarnated in a different form.
For sure. Yeah, that's available. And that is a good zine. But
it's hard. I mean, I would love to see more zines out there.
I would too. That's the thing. Like, I'm just I don't want one. I want many. I want many licensees doing many different flavors, and if they have to be at an upper tier, then I want lots of them. I don't know if that's going to happen. And I want people to be able to do, you know, who only have that one good novel in them, like so many novelists or one good movie like so many
Movieists.
no,
You write a
no.
novel, you're a novelist. If you write a movie, you're a movieist. No.
I was looking for M. Night Shyamalan, but anyway, trying to think of
He's right over
examples
there
of
in the dark corner.
yeah, exactly. People, I was trying to think of people who have only done one good movie, but anyway, so oh man, I don't know if I even want to. I am not sure that the two ineloquent Chad tonight. The two main responses I'm seeing from the company. One is that, look, Kickstarter has been a little bit poisonous. They've had some failed projects. Dean came back and said, well, there's the props guy, Ben Patey, and then there's Punktown, which is pending, and there's Horrors of War. But other than that, the successful ones far outweigh them. Well, Rick came back and said, yeah, I think you're forgetting a whole lot of ones that have failed. And my objection is that I don't really buy that those do a whole lot of damage to them. One of the things that they have said is that by confusion, people have contacted them. I assume there have been lots of hate mail to Chaosium saying you should do something about this props of Nyarlathotep thing, or perhaps complaining to Chaosium instead of Adam Scott Glancy about Horrors of War. And they're saying, it takes a lot of resource, it takes a lot of time from our day to handle these things. I'm not in their shoes.
Every time that happens, that is damage to Chaosium.
I don't know,
especially
man.
if these people have, I think, especially if they have blogs, and I mean, maybe the damage is minor.
Well, but the damage is based on a mistake in thinking. Like, so public education is a possible solution there, right?
Yeah, I'm not arguing with you.
Know. Well,
I agree. I agree. It is a mistake in thinking, but
but the mistake is damaging anyway. You're saying
having an understanding of the problem will not necessarily fix the problem, as we saw in our 2016 elections.
Oh dear.
So this is a horror podcast, John. We're not getting political, bro.
That is horror. That was horror.
Back.
So
ratchet it back.
So having standing doesn't necessarily mean that the solution will follow.
I find your argument reasonable.
I do as well. I think we're all in agreement that it is not a bad thing.
What I'm hoping for is that a year from now, Chad will be pleasantly surprised at how the world has not ended, and we're still getting fantastic.
All right, man, come on.
Fantastic Chaosium and licensed products for the Call of Cthulhu game.
And frankly, here's a thing that will be uncomfortable to say. The result of having people go to other games, I think I have made it clear on this podcast that I really like other horror games. It's not that I love Call of Cthulhu, but I think that variety is fantastic. And so if people do spread out a bit and support other titles or other games,
I hope somebody gets frustrated by the Chaosium licensing and goes and creates an absolute kick-ass chill. I would love to see that. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah. Well, I remain conflicted, but we've spent an hour on that, so we should probably move on. I think let's definitely end on the note of encouraging people and not seeing this as a sign of discouragement to find an alternative of some kind, whether it be print on demand and not doing Kickstarter with a limited license, or creating fan material and gaining a groundswell with your good stuff that you're making.
Did I mention I was drinking an oatmeal stout while we were doing all this? So I'm feeling good.
In the spirit of feeling good, please write down your ideas. Write down your scenarios and get them out there. There's a
Yeah.
huge community that will support you. So
Yeah, and the other thing is that Chaosium's doing these. I don't know if they're going to do it again next year, but they're doing convention scenarios, short scenario contests. That's coming back again. So,
Yeah, that's awesome.
they deserve credit for supporting the incubator idea in some fashion.
yeah,
Absolutely.
don't be afraid. Write things to make the players afraid.
Okay.
And if you are afraid, write to Chad.
Yes. Definitely, we'll cower in the corner together. We'll store up my, Soylent Green stash, and we'll bug out bag together. Anyway,
There you go.
moving on. So we'll have links in the show notes to Dean's post where he expresses concerns, to Chaosium's licensing links, and also to the YSDC link that we talked about. So, and you can also check out Jeff Richards talking about the point about not allowing crowdfunding for small publishing in a Legends of Tabletop interview recently. And the link is actually straight to that part of that episode. So we'll leave that in the show notes as well. Update on Cthulhu Dark. It is, as of June 12th, 53,000 now pledged with 985 backers. It looks like it'll clearly, there's 10 days left, and you still have time to get in on this, like 3 days if you're hearing this news. So
Chad, I know you're in.
Yeah, I'm all
the
in.
hardcover book. I didn't go for the what's he call it with the little
Season
updates
pass?
every now and then. Yes, I didn't get the season pass, but
Yeah,
I'm getting a hardcover print edition.
I totally went hardcover print signed edition with season pass. Why would you
that's
not?
awesome.
You're failing right now.
I didn't have the extra cash.
No, I know. I
But-
only had a little bit of cash, and that's what I put it towards. But I love Cthulhu Dark. It's great. I urge anyone that's into minimalist role playing to get into it. That is how I first met Chad.
It's true. Wow.
And at Gen Con 2014.
In person, yeah. The first thing we did gaming wise together in person was that. We met over Tremulous, but sure, yes.
Well, correct. We had
Online.
met digitally, but not in meet space.
Yep.
But yeah, also Graham ran for us on the Skype Cthulhu, as you guys had mentioned. He ran us through one of the settings, a little scenario in one of his settings called Screams of the Children in 1850s London. It was amazing.
I believe you played a Scottish cockle seller.
That's right, I did. George Irwin, a cockle man.
Yep.
It was awesome. I just finished listening to it today.
I'm only on through the first episode, so no spoilers.
No spoilers.
None indeed.
So they've smashed through the stretch goals, and there is another stretch goal now announced. This is going to be a week lag, so I don't know what the situation will be when this episode drops, but I'm excited about this. One of the stretch goals is a Cthulhu Dark mini campaign set in that London 1851 setting by Scott Dorward, and it's called Now We Are the Sons of God, and it has 3 parts that are all just exploring different parts of Victorian London. Scott's really into this time period and setting. I can't wait to see this.
I'm probably gonna have terrible dreams after playing that.
Oh, did you play that?
No, because it's gonna happen because I need it to happen. And
I see.
after that, when I eventually play it, I will have terrible dreams because Scott is a dark genius of terribleness.
Yeah, he likes it dark. I'm looking at stretch goals. I don't know that I want to get into. There's
There's a lot. So go hop on there and kick in some money so we can smash those stretch goals.
Saw online, or I saw in an email update that if the campaign hit 50,000, but I didn't know if he was talking in pounds or dollars, because it is currently at $53,000.
I think, John, we lost you for a second.
Its mini campaign is a shoe-in.
Yes, yes, I think so too. They've smashed through How to Hack Cthulhu Dark, which is a section about how to do different modifications, which I'm really glad that that's going to be in there, because some of my favorite alternative rules are covered in something he did a long time ago that I'm hoping he's carrying over. And he'll add at 40,000 pounds, which they've already smashed through, he'll add a beautifully written handouts section to the book, letters from the scenarios, handwritten. And now we're at the, let's see. Oh, he puts his design at 50,000 pounds. And let me look at the pounds meter. Oh, it doesn't. Oh, let's convert.
The poundometer.
Yeah, it's at 41,000 now. So it hasn't unlocked this. Damn it! I'm scrolling.
Well, I just saw he just jumped up right this second to 53,571.
Okay, was that you? Did you just buy something? What happened?
On.
$500 worth?
No, I'm not that much.
Anyway, he's smashing through the stretch goals, and there's more to come. I believe in the comments in the updates he's talking about more stretch goals. But anyway, congratulations to Graham for all the success, and I love this game so much.
Huzzah!
I'm so looking forward to it, and it was great to talk to him previously about the campaign or about the Kickstarter, and it was great listening to Skype at Cthulhu play Dark with Graham as the keeper. So
definitely,
I'm excited for it.
Now, something that we covered a couple of times and in depth last month, I feel like it bears a mention that Between Twilight and Dawn, the anthology of stories about things that happened between Twilight and Dawn, it did not fund. It was just short of its goal, I think by a couple thousand. And so I just wanted to go back and read a portion here of a message from Oscar. What will happen to this collection at the moment? They're not sure. They're taking a couple of weeks to step back, work on other projects, and let the dust settle before making any decisions about the collection. We have every confidence that this is a great collection and that one that deserves a moment in the sun, but the fates have spoken, and that time is not now. So maybe one day when the stars are right. To all those who wanted to see the book produced, we're sorry it didn't work out that way. So we will see if it has another incarnation down the road. We've had a long crier, guys. Would it be okay if we skipped past the animated short?
Yeah.
Yeah, skip past that. By the way, if the campaign reaches $63,500, that will be 50,000 pounds.
Gotcha. It's at 41 at the moment.
41,000 pounds, $53,000. So we got to get to 63,500 pounds. I still think it's doable.
Yeah, a little less than $10,000. 10 days to go. Come on, people. $1,000 a day. Let's do it.
Indeed. This is pretty cool.
Let's see.
Yeah, I'll go. I haven't unfortunately read ahead like I should do as a producer.
Yeah, that's all right. The board game, the Miskatonic University board game.
Well, I was going to talk about Flesh Becomes My Key.
Flesh Becomes My Key. What is that?
It's the link above that.
Oh, I thought we were going to skip.
That's not the movie. Well, that wasn't the short. That's a game.
Come on. Be responsive. All right.
Up next, we have review is out for a game called His Flesh Becomes My Key. It is something for the Outer Presence, the Eldritch Pulp investigative game. This is not something that I previously have known about. Have either of you guys seen this game before, perhaps?
I have not.
Never heard of it.
Okay, well, the review is cool to read. It's just a few paragraphs, and you can get a sense for it. I am happy to be promoting other Lovecraftian or Eldritch games. Oh, this is... I just realized who it is. It's from Venger Satanis. I don't know if you've seen him on Google+. He posts a lot. He's got a kind of space punk game. Likes pulpy stuff. Anyway, check out the review. It's in the show notes.
Oh, is this Venger Stanis?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's also very active in our stuff. A lot of DCC.
Oh, I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah, his stuff can be pretty cool and pretty dark. So I'll have to check that out.
I will as well. Interesting.
Anybody want to take one, or I will. I'll go ahead and read this.
You go ahead. You go. You be the leader.
Up next, we have some news from Chaosium. More news from Michael O'Brien. Chaosium is working on a new Miskatonic University board game with German design legend Rainer Knizia. Thank you. It says, we had fun putting the prototype through its paces at the Chaosium booth at UK Games Expo last weekend. I don't know when the date was. Some weekend in the past, apparently. They had positive reactions all around. It's including the review. It's very Call of Cthulhu, and some useful feedback. And so they're kind of working on that, and they'll be kickstarting the game later in the year.
Yeah, it looks really cool. It looks, I don't know if it's finalized art or not, but it looks like they're using some art. I think I saw Fantasy Flight, their Elder Sign game, but I don't know. I'll have to add, or it might also be art from the 7th edition books where.
That's isn't that the cover for the Cult of Keepers scenario they released that you were running us through, John?
Could be. So that may or may not be finalized art. Who knows? But
well, good placeholder for sure.
Pretty cool. Certainly, absolutely.
I will definitely be interested in playing this game once it's out, but Kickstarter should be a little while, but I'll have to bear the weight.
Yes, bear the weight. I may have to not feed the children for a week or so.
Well, they can stand it.
How that goes.
It's better when they're hungry.
Builds character.
Or alternatively, I'll feed the weaker one to the stronger one. So, you know. And don't necessarily assume that the older, boy is going to be the winner on this one. So,
just the hungrier one.
It's the hungry. Close off the basement, throw the kids in, a couple of knives, and only one comes out. So,
no,
we'll
only one knife.
Yeah, just one knife. There you go.
You just throw them down there and play the what's the Star Trek music for the.
There we go.
Oh, no, that's wrong. Wasn't it?
Yeah, that was parts of it too.
Oh, okay. Well,
that all sounds right. I wish we could
Probably
insert a little bit of that now. Maybe if we review it, it's covered in fair use. I think that's a great song. What do you guys think?
well,
I think it is a great song too.
I think it's probably one of the 3 things I know about Star Trek. So I know, John. We've talked about this at length.
You're lucky that
but
you're
this is a
lucky this is
horror.
a Call of Cthulhu.
This is a horror podcast, not a sci-fi podcast. So it's
You are lucky this is a Call of
different
Cthulhu
conversation.
podcast. Okay.
Up next, moving on swiftly, as they
Shut your Star
say,
Wars hole.
we have listener feedback. These are all
This ought to be
text, which
good.
is nice. Yeah, they're fresh. This is fresh feedback. John, do you want to read the first one?
Yeah, let's do it. That sounded terrible. All right. So we've got feedback from Matt Martinez on Google Plus. He says Lamentations of the Flame Princess was mentioned in the Sanecdotes episode of the podcast, but it does not actually have sanity mechanics. In fact, creator designer James Radji has some particular feelings about them. He quotes, "If you have any sort of sanity or fright mechanic that applies to player characters, your idea is already very bad. Throw it away and start over."
Wow.
End quote. All right. Gauntlet thrown.
Oh, man.
Yeah, wow, that's brutal.
So don't agree. That's
I think we all don't agree, and we'll just move past it right away.
okay. In any case, thank you.
Opinion has been had.
Yes. But it's a good point that we bring them up in a game, in a whole episode about sanity mechanics, and didn't mention the strong feelings. Okay.
Yeah,
So, yeah. Up next, we have Trevor Hurst, also on Google Plus. And I love these sort of instant, because often we have feedbacks that are a few weeks old. These are really from the last show. Roll sanity first. God, that is so smart. Great show today. I don't know if I heard it on a podcast, saw it in the rules or what, but a cool thing to use the D20 random sanity table for is
the what? The D20 or what?
Did I say D20?
You said D20.
Disappointment sauce.
I know. And it was sour.
Okay. Sorry. So the D100 random sanity table for character creation. So you pre-roll insanity, like eating dirt or obsessive noise. Nope.
Not noise.
Speaking of that, I have to blow my nose. I have to stop right in the middle of this feedback to blow my nose. I'm not kidding. Hang on. AFK.
We are keeping that into the show, though. Somebody call the zoo. There's an elephant in your apartment.
Jeez. I have never heard someone blow their nose like that.
Put that there.
Not even in the trash can?
No, it's on a blanket that my aunt weaved.
Wove? You mean? Wove?
I don't know. However you do it. I'm not a weaver.
Head wiven?
Midwiven. Okay.
Use the kerchiefs made by Hanes.
I do like kerchief. Oh, man. Not those thin ones. The ones where the mucus just comes through the other side.
No, I'm talking underwear.
Oh. Well, if only I was wearing some. Trevor Hurst on Google Plus says, roll sanity first. God, that's so smart. Great show today. So I don't know if I heard it on a podcast, saw it in the rules or what, but a cool thing to use the D100 random sanity table for is character creation. You pre-roll insanity, like eating dirt or obsessive nose picking. The player has to describe what thing happened in his backstory that will make him want to eat dirt when he gets unhinged later during the game. Fun.
That's actually not a bad idea. Something to consider.
Very interesting. We did a whole show about foreshadowing, and that's basically a mechanical way to foreshadow how the insanity is going to play out. I think it's pretty cool.
That's true. That's a great idea.
I wouldn't want to do it necessarily every time, but it's a pretty cool idea. Certainly, oh man, for a con, that would be great, right? The one-shot thing, just got to go around and kind of make a make a suggestion for what might happen.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, that might be kind of neat if maybe for a con game you prepare some index cards that have the insanities and a textual description on how it could be manifested once it occurs. And then instead of having any die rolls whatsoever, you've limited the pool to just those index cards. And then as each player goes insane, just reach into the bowl, grab an index card, and go from there.
That's pretty good. I like that, John.
It is good.
That's pretty good.
Is there not an insanity deck somewhere?
There used to be,
I feel
and with
like
the
there is.
and with the 7th edition Kickstarter, did that deck get made, or did it stay as a PDF or something like that?
Oh, I don't know if all those decks made it through the.
I don't remember if
wall.
they made it through or not. Yeah, it may have been canceled, but yeah, there used to be an Insanity deck. There's something out there that could be found, I'm sure.
Yeah, or you could just make up your own.
Or you can just make up your own.
All right, well, we'll get into our main topic as soon as I stop Zencaster. Should we do that, guys?
Yeah, let's do that because we've had a successful hour of recording, so let's preserve that and then do it again.
Exactement. Whoops, it's not. Doesn't want to stop recording. There we go. Oh, it's only.
Hey, and it's only doing MP3.
Yeah, perfect. That's what I wanted.
Well, you did something.
Oh, now
right?
it's doing waves. Okay. It did
No
like all
waves.
the.
Stop my recording. It's just gonna. I'm rolling. Is that okay, Chad?
Max. Yeah. What about it?
Okay, is it okay if my Zoom just keeps recording?
Absolutely, that's what I'm doing. It's easier that way. It's fine.
Are we good?
You're out of Zencaster, so you need to come back in.
Yeah, my system froze on the Zencaster page.
That's fine. That's fine.
But
you
I
can
think
just simply
I think it uploaded the MP3.
Yeah, it did.
If it
if you-
didn't, Con, you can just click again. Hello,
What do
Google.
you did you want to check those files, Chad, to make sure they're okay?
I could, but we do have a Google Hangouts live going, so we've also.
Oh. Never mind.
Yeah.
So,
I
well,
think
but this is
it
just in
possible?
between filler. So, do you want to go through the sanity corrections first and then get into the topic?
That's kind of what I was thinking, because it's the topic is related
that-
to yeah.
Yeah, something else.
Yeah, I mean the corrections are all the way.
And I can segue from your explanation of the topics to my recommendation of the idea I was talking to John about while we were playing his playtest.
Yeah.
And then we can bring that into another thing I was thinking about and the big topic.
Yep. Well, and there's also the Tyler and some other people on our forums were talking about how they wish we would have talked about how they don't like the sanity losses that are
Right.
listed.
Right. Where
And so
Yeah,
they
I
think
would love to
it's not enough. I think
Yeah.
John's fully in that camp.
yeah, me too.
And I don't think I am in that camp.
Wait. You're in what camp? They're
I'm
not.
fully in that camp where I don't think the listed sanity is severe enough, and then he thinks that he's okay with it.
I think I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Because I think sanity, well, we
Well,
can
don't-
get into
Do not. Yeah, let's not pre.
it. Shush, Max. Shush.
Do not mouth.
So this should be okay. So John, your
Wait,
MP3.
hold on. Let me. I think I need to probably erase the file, or does it still say I have 657 megabytes?
It now says 297.
Okay, so let me see if it saved it locally in my files, so I can delete it.
Yeah, I don't. It might be program files. I don't know where it keeps that. But John, your MP3 is still uploading, eh?
Yeah, I see 0 progress. It says uploading 0%. I am going to refresh my screen
Yeah.
and see what that does.
Perfect.
So let's do that.
Yeah, I can't find a file.
Murph knows how to find it, but I don't know the folder tree to get to it.
Oh, well, I can't do that
Yeah,
anyway
neither do I.
because I have a Chromebook that's stupid.
What's a... Oh, I see.
Dump the porn, and then that should open up a lot of files.
I can't even do that, John.
It's a
Oh,
cloud
that
thing,
sucks.
right?
Well, it's like
Cloud porn.
it's
Phone porn.
a Chrome OS, so it doesn't work like Windows.
Right. But there's not much locally happening, right? It's mostly a lot of cloud memory, or is it?
Yeah. Well, no, it's all solid state memory on the computer, and then I have it linked to my Google Drive, but it saves everything. I would think that it's processing locally, but I can't access that part of the computer.
Well, once... Yeah. I don't know why. Oh, okay, so it's just... I think it's going to keep giving us... So you had, what, 600 and something before?
677.
Something in that
So we did
neighborhood,
use
yeah.
up a lot, yeah. We used up a little more than 300.
And so my MP3, I think, is uploaded now, and
it
I
is.
actually have MP3 and Wave available, and I did not click on Wave. I'm not going to finalize that.
Yeah, same here. Oh, mine already... I already have my wave, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, because it didn't error out, and so yours just both went. But
So I think that if I start a recording, we're good.
I think it'll
so,
keep counting
too.
down on my memory.
Yeah, I do. I think so too.
Hopefully we don't lose Max. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, I don't think you'll lose me, but I think eventually we'll have to stop. It might be mid-recording,
Yeah.
and then I might have to restart my computer. Or do you want to try that now? Maybe I
Yeah,
can just
you know what? If
restart.
we're in a break now, why don't you try and do a restart?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do
See if
that.
there's anything you can dump, and then do a restart.
Well, I can't dump anything else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that it deleted, once it uploaded things, that it deleted them, but I'm not sure how Zencaster works.
Me neither. I am unaware if Zencaster has been loading files onto this old ass computer. If it has, I would want to go in there or find a way. I would want to be informed so that I could go in there and get rid of them, because this computer is slow enough as it is. I don't need Zencaster loading shit onto it every 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, maybe Murph can help us. I could probably find it. I mean, just using searches, but I don't know what they call their folders and stuff. You have a PC?
Yeah, my in-laws bought a new PC a few years ago, so they gave me this one as a hand-me-down, which was fine. You know, we only had one computer in the house, and it's a Apple iBook, and so this allows me to be on the computer without having to usurp the iBook from Kara. So I can do this, and she can be on the iBook downstairs. The only thing I use this thing for is the recent podcasting over the last 6 months or so. I use it for a little bit of writing and a little bit of YouTube and internet goof off shit, and then that's it. I don't use it for nothing else.
Yeah.
I don't think I can do anything about my memory.
Oh, okay.
Well, that sucks balls. I don't know what that's going on or how to fix it.
Well, what will happen is we'll have a separate file for you. It's a little esoteric to describe why having it. Well, Max, you've done some mixing before? Audio
Yeah.
mixing? Yeah,
Ish.
so like we'll default for your track to the all mixed file. So if we talk over each other in the Google Hangouts, your voice will be swallowed. We won't be able to isolate it. That's all.
Oh, well, I don't think I'm worried about it.
So
Plus,
not
we
the-
have 297 megabytes free, and I think it counts down. So if we get close, I'll send you guys a message.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be
Just
great.
speak up when it gets to like 2.
Because I think what would be a good thing for us to do is pause the recording, stop and download Zencaster at that point, and then at that point, we could maybe just not use Zencaster and just finish out with Google
Yeah.
Hangouts.
Yeah,
Okay.
something like that.
Okay.
All right,
Cool.
so I'm going to start, and we will just start in with the topic. And I guess, guys, I'll just go through. So what happened, John, is Mike was like, hey, you guys totally misrepresented the sanity mechanics for Call of Cthulhu. He was nice about it, but he was like, what the hell? And so I was going to sort of treat this like a correction and go through the sanity mechanics of Call of Cthulhu really quick.
That sounds good. That
All
sounds
right.
good.
So we're going to do that. Let's do a quick test to make sure there's no echo.
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, all clear.
All clear.
And are we seeing those little vertical bars showing up?
Oh
wait, no, it
but I
says
think you have to
start
start
recording.
Yeah, there you go. Start the recording, and
Vertical recording.
there we
but
go.
I
We
don't-
have verticals.
I don't see verticals on mine, but that's
Yep,
probably
I see
doesn't-
yours.
Yep, you're looking good.
Ah,
You got verticals.
gotcha.
Okay.
So go, Chad.
I just have to move the show notes.
No, now.
All right. So this episode, we're just kind of tossing around different ideas with Max as our sounding board guest. But first up, we need to, I don't know, it's kind of a correction. I don't know if I'm going to play the Falls on Sword sound effect here. Maybe I will. And it's mostly me. Here's the deal. We talked about all the sanity mechanics that we could find in last episode, and we just barely, at the top of the show, we said we're going to talk about sanity in Call of Cthulhu and other Lovecraft and related role-playing games. Well, turns out we didn't really cover sanity in Call of Cthulhu. We thought we would just be referencing them as we talked about, yay, this sanity mechanic is similar to Call of Cthulhu. Well, it turns out that we really kind of misrepresented the sanity mechanics, just in the fact that I pretty much said, yeah, tables of random results like we have in Call of Cthulhu are also in, Chill and GURPS. Well, that doesn't really represent any edition of Call of Cthulhu very well, because it has always been optional to explicitly. I looked in my first edition. It's always been explicitly optional that basically you should find an insanity, temporary insanity that works for the moment, that works in context of the scenario that you're working with. But you can choose as an option to do these random mechanics. And that's how we all did it. We talked about that during the show, but it sort of sounded at minute 53, at minute 58, and a minute 1 hour and 3. You can hear me basically. If you've never heard of Call of Cthulhu before, you would go away thinking that Call of Cthulhu has a random sanity mechanic only. Oops, mea culpa. Here's the sound of me falling on a sword and screaming in pain, and then a sad trombone. Okay, so we're going to start out just by talking about the actual mechanics in 7th edition Call of Cthulhu. And some of these are definitely overlapping with 6 and editions before, but basically the way it works is you roll on 1d100. You have a sanity stat. If it's under that stat, then you have succeeded in your sanity roll. And if you go over, you failed. And oh boy.
That's all right.
Okay.
Failing a sand roll will always result in some sort of to lose, the investigator will lose self-control, so there'll be some kind of like jump in fright, cry out in terror, you'll freeze in place, something like that. You'll do an idea roll to see if your brain correlates the horror before it, right?
That's only if you lose 5, right?
Yes, if you lose well, you know what? Don't lead me into anything, Chad, here. You might still be wrong. Let's find out here.
That's quite possible.
Yeah, temporary insanity is if the investigator loses 5 or more sand points.
That
in
goes
a single
back
pop.
to and that goes back to first edition, by the way. I was surprised to see.
And so yes, with temporary insanity, so not the lower insanity losses, but when you lose 5 or more in a single pop, or if you lose, I believe it's still if you lose 20%.
True.
You will over the course of the day, if you lose 20% over the course of the day, you will get a temporary insanity. So you've lost that sanity. You may even, depending upon the scenario or the situation in which you've lost that sanity, you might gain some Cthulhu Mythos points. But let's just set that part aside and just say you've lost your 5 or more points of sanity in a single pop. That is when you will attempt your intelligence roll. So not for anything less than 5 points, and not for anything less than 20% accumulated for the day. So once either those conditions are met, you'll attempt your intelligence roll. Used to be called the idea roll, which I don't know why they stopped calling int intelligent or idea.
Well, they still have on the sheets. There still is idea. It's just under. Oh, do they just say it in the book? You're right. They just say it's an int check. It's not.
It's just an int check. Whereas I think education is still known as a no.
Well, there's still an idea roll as well, which is equal to your int. Yes. Anyway,
you're right. Both of them are still there. Anyways, so you make your idea check. If your idea check is successful, this is one of the mechanics that I absolutely love. If your idea check is successful, your brain has correlated all of this horror and has said, "Yep, that's a natural, and I'm going to take a vacation now." And so then you will get your temporary insanity. You'll have your bout of madness. And so bout of madness, just kind of skimming here, it says that
so that's sorry, I was going to jump in if you were stumbling.
Oh, go ahead, jump in.
So that's any phase of insanity that includes temporary or indefinite, just as you said, begins with a bout of madness, and that lasts, if you're in the game, 1d10 rounds. If you're like other player characters are around you, then you narrate this in rounds. Keeper discretion is dictated for whether you collaborate with the player or if you dictate it to your PC as to what happens. And this is true in 6th edition and all the way back. You can roll on a random table for inspiration or just choose something. And the random results are pretty general actually now in the latest edition. So it's sort of like faint or flee or get amnesia. Not that dissimilar to Delta Green, the way we talked about it being more general. So that's the fun part. Those bouts of madness, that's what you think of in Call of Cthulhu. When you go crazy, you do something for 1d10 rounds.
Yep. And the new book has 2 tables for Bouts of Madness. One is called Bout of Madness Real Time, and one is called Bout of Madness Summary. And the tables are nearly identical, but the summaries for each of the 10 items, because it's a D10 table, the summaries are slightly different. So Real Time is the character has gone into a Bout of Madness with other player characters present to witness, and then Summary is you've gone insane, but there was no one there really to witness, so we're just going to kind of summarize what has happened and move on from there. So those are your two Bout of Madness tables.
Yep, and that's 1d10 hours. Did you say that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a little confusing because it's in D10 rounds, D10 hours, and then the tables themselves are a D10 if you wanted to randomize what that Bout of Madness is.
Right. So you can use the table for inspiration, things like waking up robbed or being beaten, or having gone on your own violent spree during this madness, and you wake up
fleeing in panic.
Yep, you end up institutionalized, amnesia, those kinds of things,
all kinds of stuff.
Yep. One of the things that's new in 7th edition is that whenever any Bout of Madness happens, the keeper can corrupt or add a backstory element for the character. So you can shift their appearance and make them seem like a little more disheveled, and now that is like an ongoing condition. Or you can corrupt a backstory element, like a key person in the backstory. It reminds me of the Pillars of Sanity things that we talked about. Or the Delta Green bonds that we talked about.
The keeper could also corrupt the perspective that the investigator has on the world. Instead of maybe being a positive, jubilant, always seeing the good in people and the bright and shiny in things, maybe now you can't help but see that the street I live on, I never actually realized how many homeless people are huddled in those corners. Oh my gosh! As I walk down the street, I can now hear that out of work, drunk who lives in apartment 3B. I can hear him beating his children. I mean, you can change those perspectives so that now your view on the world is different.
Yeah. Those are good. It kind of reminds me of Creeping Horrors in a way from Cthulhu Dark, which you'll have to listen to the interview to figure out what that is. But a kind of a way to introduce little horrors, basically. And after your Bout of Madness is over, you have an underlying sanity. The player is guided to continue role-playing ongoing effects of this mental fragility for 1d10 hours, and that is actually up to the player explicitly, so they can play it to whatever degree they want to. I think that's pretty cool, though. I like that guidance, and I hadn't really done that before as a player in 7th edition games yet. That is new.
Look, that's true, yeah. And as I'm looking at these Bouts of Madness tables, as I said, they're 10 items long, and items 9 and 10 are the phobia and mania. So, your investigator is going to gain a phobia or gain a mania. But I would say you don't have to limit it to that. You could have your part of your bout of madness be violence, where the investigator goes on a violent spree and still gain a mania or phobia. I mean, it's up to the player and keeper to,
yeah, but I think that would be under mania. I mean, it would be depending on what kind of mania they got.
The actual bout of
or phobia, then maybe that would spur them to violence. I mean, especially if you had a phobia of like fish people and you started to see all of your, party members as fish people.
Yeah, it's definitely
it's beginning to look a lot like fishmen.
Again, we're gonna have to pay $20,000 just because you sang that.
You are welcome.
Don't own the IP.
We'll just take that out of the podcasting budget.
Well, you got that Innsmouth gold saved up.
Exactly.
Something else that's new in 7th edition is delusions and reality checks. This is pretty cool. You can, keepers can give these delusions to players when they have a bout of madness. You can give them like incorrect information or just hallucinations that the player acts on, or say the results of a pushed roll, which is also a great way to increase the horror. But the player can choose to make a check on their own sanity to disbelieve the delusion, which cedes a little more agency to the player to sort of resist the effects of insanity.
So, but you don't have that option if you've already created your character as a believer in the mythos, correct?
Oh, is that right?
I don't know. I'm asking. I mean, if that distinction wasn't made, I would ask that question. Because if you are making your character as a believer in the mythos, say you have occult knowledge and you're, someone actively or seeking or has had an instance with the mythos, would that not take that option off the table? If not, I would house rule it.
Well, okay, but I mean, a delusion is not, you see, a deep one. Well, it could be. But the delusion is even beyond any mythos, reality, or it's actually a lie that the keeper is telling the player, right?
Right. Just disbelieving the illusion.
Right. So so they may actually see fishmen in the post office when they're not there. What would be interesting, this brings up, is if they make that and all but one fishman in the post office disappears. Right?
Right.
Oh, there's only one real one.
It's like
there's a guy in the post office. He looks fairly normal, except he's completely soaking wet and he's barefoot in the he's leaving a trail of water. He's barefoot and his feet seem to be webbed.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just in line to make a deposit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and this would trigger. I mean, there could be a situation where the player doesn't know either what's real and what's not.
Right.
And can roll to disbelieve. And the thing that's cool about this is that you lose 1 point if you fail that sanity check. And you have immediately another bout of madness.
Oh, no.
So it's a little like cost-benefit gamble that you have to do. So if you're in a post office and you think a guy is a fishman, you can roll to disbelieve if the keeper's kind of, holding the cards tight. And if they fail, they lose a point of sanity, I think, plus the actual sanity check that they would have to do for the fishman, for the real fishman. And then they would have a bout of madness. If you succeed, the delusion is dispelled and more delusions are resisted until you lose actually more sand later. So you have a sort of resistant period in the middle of the scenario for delusions. So there is also, I don't think we've seen this before, but new to the sanity section is a table for how to guide players and keepers in how points of sanity loss can be role played. So in other words, they say it's a sort of discomfort at 1 or 2 sanity points lost. It's disgust at 3 or 4. Disgust like ends in T, not ED. You can discuss it, let's have a discussion. At the level of 5 to 9, which would be past that trigger of temporary insanity of 5, right? Is you experience fear and panic. But then if you get to the 10 to 19 level, which I just had happened in a game recently, somebody lost 17 points in a single sand check. That is mind warping level of insanity. And then beyond 20 is cosmic evil. And I'm not reading right from the book; those are bullet points. But there's more sort of paragraph guidance for each of those levels. I think it's pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. I think you hearkened to that back in the previous episode when you were talking about Tremulous, where there's a six different levels of shock that you can be in, and they all have kind of different descriptors about your physical person or mental state, depending on the level. And this is really nice. What I think would be really fun that I've been kind of tinkering with lately, and I've talked to both you and John about is the putting tiers or different breaking up the sanity loss from mythos entity or monster or interaction into more descriptive tiers, like the author's vision or what they're trying to get the players to actually feel or see or think in those different levels of sanity loss for their vision. I think that would be really interesting and would help break up what John put as kind of the letdown of just saying a number and telling them that's what they lost and kind of giving a bland description. So I would definitely be interested to see more descriptions from authors in their own words in scenarios for sanity loss from there.
Well, I'll tell you, I've had an epiphany.
Go.
And I know for my future games, and I'm talking about games that I'm running, I'm not going to, document them in written form this way. I mean, I'm going to still stay with, the way that the core rules, publish sanity loss. But for me, and as I run games in the future, depending upon the situation, 0 will never be an appropriate number, depending upon the situation. 1 might be an appropriate number, or maybe a D3. If you're successful, and depending upon the situation, but never again. As I read, despite how that character's or that creature's sanity loss is written for, success / failure. If you're encountering the creature because you're in its lair and you've interrupted it feeding, even if you pass your sanity check, it will be a hit. I'm not going to go 0.
Right.
But if as creatures are maybe migrating from one graveyard over to then okay, sure, you're kind of disconnected. Hell, they're not even aware of your presence. A pass would be in my, I could see a 0 being that. But man, if you're in the thick of things and you're right there, 0 ain't gonna happen.
Well, and I think that's good. I mean, situationally, for what's going on in the scenario, it isn't just the mythos creature that is impinging on the stability of your sanity. It's the situation you're in, the surroundings that you have, the dead, dying, or undead things that you may have in your presence.
Yeah, or personal, what you've been through to that point.
Right, exactly.
Could be catching up to
your current mental state after other things you've been through. So I think that GM Fiat is totally 100% within your right, and I can't say that I've stayed true to 100% of the book written sanity losses.
Oh, sure.
So yeah, it's a sliding scale.
Well, I want to put a pin in that just for a second and go back to what you're saying about the descriptions. Did you have an idea about how to delineate for keepers in written material, how you would explain to keepers how to dole that out?
Well, I mean, I've been looking at mostly probably a 3-tiered description list. So breaking down, regardless of the sanity mechanic or I'm sorry, the sanity loss, the whatever / whatever, going from the minimum loss to the maximum possible loss. Break it up into chunks however you so desire as the author or tinkerer of the scenario, and just break it into 3 tiers, and then have different descriptions or things that embody what you want, or what you want players to see out of that description, such as a low sanity thing like a ghoul from a 0 to 1. Well, it's a 0 / 1d6. So from a 0 to 1, you get a weird feeling, just kind of like a stranger that rubs you the wrong way. You're not really sure who it is. You can't really tell, can't make it out. 2 to 4, you get a glimpse of the horror, where kind of you see that this person's old or broken and just not walking right, and more than the chilling feeling of just this stranger is there's something definitely not right, but you can't really tell. And then say a 5 to a 6 loss would be, you fully see the horror, and you see the wizened cracking skin, the hollow eye sockets, and some peeling flesh, and the talons, which really aren't talons, they're just the sharpened fingertip bones of a ghoul that's been clawing at other flesh and dead things and stone and dirt over time. And so just kind of some descriptions like that, or maybe a descriptor word bank for certain mythos entities for the author's vision. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, to kind of prompt keepers on a theme to like, what would a word bank look like, say, for this ghoul scenario? What would you say to keepers to guide them?
Ooh,
well, and would it be a word bank that might be with a monster listing, or would it be a word bank that's nested in a encounter in part of a scenario, so that it's more apropos for that encounter?
I mean, there's definitely different ways you can go about it. I personally would think an appendix page with just a word bank for setting, creatures.
Oh, that's interesting.
NPCs. So just kind of different, adjectives and descriptors for feeling when you're describing things in those different, story elements. That would be probably how I would do it. But I don't know. Myself, I would probably just put 3 different descriptors underneath the actual creature or event. So that way it's just, there's pre-written prompts for you to say if you don't want to come up with something, but then there's also enough in the pre-written prompts that you could glean enough descriptors to make your own semblance of a description.
So like keywords.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was thinking the same thing. If it was keyword activated, maybe the encounter had certain keywords, and then you could go to the appendix and go, okay, these keywords, trigger this.
That's funny. I think I'd do that. I'm thinking now with my little 3x5 card situation where I usually have notes, the whole scenario somehow on 3x5 cards as far as flow and, they're at the library now and these things happen at the library. I will often have a descriptor or like 2 or 3 words for an NPC, sort of clammy and diminutive and farty, whatever it is that I want to use to kind of make them memorable.
You said you weren't going to bring that up, Chad. One time. That was one time. 3 years ago. Man.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's
my friend.
Anyway, yeah. One of my things I'd been thinking about to talk to you guys about lately, and yeah,
I like that idea. We had some
too.
response. Now that we're talking about sanity losses from the last show about. We started to talk about sanity losses, and John's issue, specifically that had to do with actually, it was the two of you, right? It was you guys playing a one-on-one game and bumping up against a sanity loss that didn't feel satisfying, right?
Right.
Well, I thought it was totally
Chad, you and I,
because I destroyed that scenario.
He did. So. And Chad, you and I could have tested it out, except you got yourself arrested. So
well,
we didn't figure that out. So
I went to the police station like a noob.
That happens. Yeah. Rule number 1: don't call the police. Hello, 911.
The cops go, "It's for your protection. We want to put you in this cell." And he's like, "Okay," and walks into the cell. They lock the door. He's in.
Yeah, that's
a nice padded cell with a comfy straitjacket.
Spiraled out of control quickly.
It did.
It had a pretty good ending. I mean, for a police station ending, it was pretty satisfying to me.
It did have a pretty horrific ending for that police station. Yes.
Yes, it did. But do you guys
mentally I was going, send more cops, so
exactly. I was thinking we would keep doing that. I was thinking, I would just be like, you should definitely call the Stadies in on this. National Guard should be involved. But do you guys have, in a more broad sense, do you think that the listed sand losses, not just for your particular game, feel not quite right, but the actual list, like a ghoul being 0/1d6? I know you guys don't like zeros, but do you feel like they're sort of unfairly low or inequitable between different types of monsters?
I think John and I are diametrically opposed on this.
Point counterpoint.
I am 100% fine with zeros and the way that they are written, because I think sanity is, again, it's part of the environment, like the PC's perception, their understanding, their ability to believe in the mythos. So I mean, we're playing humans in this game, so they're complex people with complex drives and motivations and comprehension. So I don't think necessarily a 0 is a bad thing. I think it's definitely, everyone's so unique that it makes sense that people could be totally unaffected by it, while their neighbor just tears their hair out and then just grabs something sharp to poke out their eyes.
John, your response? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the university for hosting me today, Chad for moderating.
Junior debate.
Maxwell, you are wrong, and allow me to illustrate why. I especially when you're talking about the low end, a successful sanity roll, I think one of the main problems that I think may exist is that I don't think sanity loss listed for the monsters takes into account the universe as a whole.
Wow.
So that humanoid monsters, deep ones, ghouls, sand dwellers. Since these are some of the ones that are listed in our show notes here. Now, granted, they all have a 0/1d6, but I beyond the board on that, I don't know if the sanity mechanics, at least it doesn't appear to me that the sanity mechanics are looking across the universe and saying, okay, we have a collection of creatures here that are humanoid because they either once were human or can be they're bipedal with hands and that kind of thing. Is we're going to keep them in a central neighborhood on Sandloss, and then we've got other creatures here that are they throw out pseudopods because they have no set form or dimension, and then here are other creatures that are clearly monstrous because they're larger and have multiple legs and odd number of arms and heads that open up vertically. So I would like to see a general kind of shakedown of all the creatures and kind of break them up by class and have sanity losses that are more apropos for those classes. I also think it wouldn't hurt to add in a few minor tweakings, like there's a symbol that is the greater than or equal to symbol. I think it looks like the greater than with a line under it, or they also have the less than or equal to. I would love to see, instead of these zeros, a less than or equal to 1 for a successful. So then the keeper can decide, is it going to be a 1 or a 0? What's the situation determine? And then for a loss of sand where the sanity roll was unsuccessful, maybe not every humanoid is a 1d6. As Tyler noted, sand dwellers basically look like shaved koala bears. They've got giant eyes and big ears. Maybe a D4.
I have a point of order on that, though.
Okay.
Because
point of order, you are recognized.
It doesn't matter what the universe classifies them as, okay? Because we're playing human investigators. So, therefore, it's relative to humanity. It's not relative to the universe. It's relative to humanity. And if you see a humanoid shape and figure, it's more likely that you're going to write that off as something or not recognize it as what it is than you are to be like, oh, it's some crazy mystic horror thing that you've never seen your entire life.
Well, now I've got a wrench to throw into this.
Clang.
Which is that sanity. So the idea here, I think, the structure of this is the more different or other that this thing is perceived as, the more different than human, the worse the sanity loss generally. So a ghoul can be mistaken as a human, in clothes, you might not even be able to tell. Whereas, a Color Out of Space or Hound of Tindalos or Great Cthulhu, much larger sand losses. I would like to submit that there is a uncanny valley effect where, in fact, if I saw a big tentacular thing in the ocean, let's say more like Star Spawn or Shoggoth sized than Great Cthulhu, like like reasonably shark sized, or could be a sea creature, right? These things have tentacles. Like if you go over a reef, a coral reef, snorkeling, you see all kinds of things that are so different than humans and are clearly alive and seem to have, not intelligence, but sentience, or, you can certainly imagine intelligence. But those things, like divers, are perfectly sane. And yet, if you see someone who has, say, what's the disease where fluid fills up in your head? Somebody who is human, who has a physical issue that makes you go, oh God, that, or a scar.
Hydrocephalia?
That's exactly the word. you know, and it's not a reaction I am particularly proud of, but it is humans that can make me, you know, in physical form that's close to, that would be more than, say, a giant squid. I don't think I would lose my sanity to see a giant squid, but I might to see somebody who was harmed, you know, and just sort of feel more of a personal connection or sense of compassion for it. So I would like to submit that sometimes ghouls could be much worse than a color out of space.
I can absolutely see that. I can absolutely see that. I think it just depends upon the scenario and how they're being perceived. You know, the scuba divers snorkeling over the reef, it could be a little unsettling to see some of these creatures moving about in their natural habitat, you know, because you're like, well, I'm glad I'm up here. I'm not right down there with them. But then imagine that same snorkeler is looking at the life down there, and then suddenly those creatures stop and look back up at the snorkeler, and you can see that they're puzzling out and they're observing this alien in their environment, and then they start calling for reinforcements, and now they're starting to move upon you. That could be pretty scary, even if they were all, you know,
Yes.
earthly creatures. Once their behavior changes, that would get bad. And so I think it depends upon, you know, even with the human things, if the behavior is out of the norm, if their, you know, if their looks are out of the norm or their behavior is out of the norm, yeah, that would be, even if you had a successful sand roll, I think that would still be impactful. You know, if it was successful, we'll keep it down to a 1, maybe. If it was a fail, yeah, hey, let's roll that D6 or D4 or something like that. But I think I would like to see a shakedown of the way sanity is listed. Sand losses are listed for creatures. You know.
Yeah. When somebody made the point on the forum that, you know, these, the monster manual, the, what is it called? There is a section.
Malleus Monstrorum.
Well, but in the rules, that always has a header.
Rules. Yeah, I can look that up for you.
Oh God, it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't know why I get persnickety.
It matters.
Oh, this one's just called. This calls Monsters, Beasts, and Alien Gods, which is not what I expected. I thought there was some single word thing. Anyway, that these things have been cobbled together since 1981. That some have been added and dropped, and that they seem to be suggesting that these disparities haven't been reconciled. I'm not so sure that I see that. You think so?
Yeah, I think these disparities have not been. So in Tyler's notes in the MU forums, he notes a dark young has a 1d3/1d10 sand loss, and he thought, okay, I could buy that. Then something called a dark sargassum, which I had never heard of, but apparently this thing has a 1d6/1d2. And this is basically a water-based dark young. So it's a water-based dark young, yet it has the same sand loss as a Shoggoth. Why doesn't the dark sargassum have the same sand loss as a regular dark young? That's where I think, you know, it becomes kind of clear that there's not a lot of, there hasn't been a widespread look at the universe as a whole and say, hey, maybe we should level set some of these creatures. Granted, new creatures are being created all the time. You know, I'm writing something right now where I'm trying to create a brand new creature. I am going to try and be cognizant of the sand loss that I post for this creature because it is going to be, you know, bipedal, eighth, but clearly unhuman. So, you know, I'm going to look at Ghoul and Sand Dweller and Deep One as the template on how do I post the sand loss for this.
But
But yeah, new creatures are being built all the time, and it would be odd if for this new humanoid creature, I said it's a 1d3/1d12.
Well, I will
How
look
do I
forward to
justify
seeing
that?
that in the future,
Yeah.
John. You
Oh,
better keep writing
you
those Age of
will.
Cthulhu books.
You will.
See, it's with your new microphone, man. You can do special effects. That was pretty cool.
You will be.
So, hey,
Well-
do you guys want to cut it before the main section right here? Because on my
Or do you wanna
Chromebook,
stop?
I'm about to run out of memory,
Damn,
so I can
yes.
switch. I can switch the computer, and we can do the main topic.
Yep, let's do that.
Yeah, I'll stop
All
the
right.
recording right now. But why do you have to switch to the main computer?
Because I can't reset
Yeah,
my
'cause-
memory on this stupid Chromebook.
Discontinue Zencaster.
Well, no, I can open Zencaster on my computer.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's weird. Sure. I don't see why not.
I can go to
Yeah.
my regular PC. I just can't walk around and pace. Well,
Oh, that's the whole
Well-
issue. I see.
on my
I can't walk around. You're gonna lose 1d3 sand for that.
We have all three MP3s up, eh?
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Although for whatever
think that
reason I
one-
can't
I
click
think
the
that went
X to
well.
part of the flag. I thought it went over well too.
Yeah. What, the topic?
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
I mean, everything so far, we've basically been crushing it.
Totally. Yeah, I actually
Um,
think it has been a good discussion. I was just flipping through on some better examples. A freaking Yithian has a 0/1d6. So I think that's
Now that doesn't make any fucking sense.
no.
Yeah, and they're talking conical body Yithian.
Like the same as a
but
ghoul, that's outrageous.
Yeah, that is outrageous. I am incensed at the thought.
Nopki. Let's see, Nopki. Oh, see, Nopki, those like horned extra limb guys,
Yep.
is 0/1d10, but it's
Come on
still
now.
0.
Come on, see.
Yeah,
I
see that,
have an
And I
issue.
would say a Yithian.
but to be fair, there has to be a baseline.
Well, yeah, okay. So
we should stop talking about this off the
All right,
record, though.
all right, hold on.
Don't you
Give me a minute, and I'll switch on. Once I get back on Google Hangouts, we should be good.
all right.
All right, let me shut this shit down.
You should be able to just click through from the same link. Oh, I lost John. Is that? Did you
I'm
just refresh or
reloading.
something? Okay.
I'm just refreshing.
Let's just John, your unfinalized wave is just kind of sitting there. Don't click it.
I'm not going to click it.
Did you induce that somehow in a good way?
Nope, I
Were
did
you able
not.
to cause that? Okay. Because I don't know how to
Yep, I
stop
just-
the process because I don't want my wave, but
Yeah, no, I think what happened is that there was a bit of a hiccup after the MP3 successfully loaded. It attempted the wave and it
Yeah.
hiccuped.
so it stopped and said, click if you want to
and
try
so it
again.
stopped.
Yeah.
Right, and I say no. I say nay. I shall not. You cannot make me. I will not do it.
Oh, I should tell him, Max, are you there? No. He should probably just name himself something else from a different computer because this one's uploading as Max Mahatha. It probably doesn't matter. It'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I think even though I'm getting your files, do you want to do a dry run of giving me your card file anyway? The MP3 that you're recording locally?
So I'd have to stop recording.
Well, not
and
now.
find a-
No, not now. I mean, any time this week. I mean,
Oh yeah. My plan is to do that.
good. Okay.
Let's see, the port on this thing should be the exact same as my No, might not be the same, but it could be the same as my cell phone. I'll see if I've got one of those cords around here somewhere. Anyways, I should be able to do it with a cell phone cord. If not, it should be a cord I should be able to find fairly easily. It's a
Oh,
micro
I see.
USB, because some of those micro USBs are different scales.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and so it is a type of micro USB, because it might be a slightly different type than the micro USB that's on my Android phone.
Didn't it come with one?
I
I bet you it came with a cord.
I'm looking at. Here's the box, and let me just kind of take the box apart. Maybe there's a hidden compartment in here or something, but
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
we can. So something we were going to suggest is maybe if you sign in with a different name instead of your first and last name, just go in as your first name. Yeah, negative. There's no micro
Okay.
USB cord.
Why does that matter?
But Max, you seem to be fine. It seems to be working. Just because it's uploading you as another name on a different computer, but since you're in, it seems fine.
Yeah.
You're in the call. I'm gonna start a new recording and see what happens.
Wait, it's putting me as a different name?
No. You're as Max Mahafa uploading a WAV file at 28% right now on the other computer. So we were concerned maybe if you signed in again.
Oh, gotcha.
But I don't know that it matters. Let me start a recording and see if we get an error. Kaboom.
Well, but you already got the MP3 before the wave.
Yeah, totally. The wave is fine. I don't care about the wave, actually. I just didn't know if it would interfere.
Fuck the wave.
You got it. And
oh, you know what? And now that Max is on a new computer, it does not show him having memory limitations.
true.
I'm
Yep.
on my PC and I have like a couple terabytes.
And I'm
Free.
seeing
There you
the
go.
vertical. Seeing the vertical.
Yep, I'm seeing the verticals for all of us.
Levels. So I just wanted to go back to these comments and point out that somebody else on the forum, let me hat tip to Daniel79. Daniel79. That he or she points out some other examples that to me are much more serious than Sargasso versus the Dark Young, although that's discussable. But a Yithian has a sand loss of 0/1d6. And that's the same as a ghoul or some of the other humanoids that we've talked about. In fact, its average size is 320, which means it's 300% larger than humans. It's already totally not mistakable for a human like a ghoul is, or a deep one with proper clothes. So I'm finding that to be a mismatch historically. I don't know how that happened.
Yep. Nope, I agree. And something like a dimensional shambler has a 0/1d10. And I think the 1d10 may be appropriate, but 0 for the success. I mean, this thing is a insectoid, weird, transdimensional. It shimmers in and shimmers out. No, that's a D3 at best.
A hunting
for
horror.
success.
Oh, a hunting
Dimensional
horror.
shambler. Oh, hunting horror. Okay.
Yeah, a hunting horror has 0/1d10 as well. That is a living dragon. I can imagine if you are in, medieval times and your belief system is shifted to accept that there are dragons in the world, maybe, but yeah. So I think it is true that some of these are off, which points to my mind to, again, making sure that you check out the sand losses in your game and that they feel right to you.
Well, yeah. GM Fiat is law. That's why switch it up whenever you want.
Well, so now you. That's a whole other thing. I didn't slam Murph for saying that last time, but it's a thing that gets under my skin.
Well, it's not willy-nilly.
Well,
Do
no,
it so
no,
that it
and I
makes
don't.
sense for the situation.
No, and I do think it is reasonable to have a final authority at the table in an authoritative traditional game where you have a GM who's responsible for things that aren't player characters. So let's skip that. That will be edited out.
Yeah.
But
Different
basically,
session. Different session.
It's true.
I'm going to spend the rest of the podcast saying GM Fiat.
Okay.
Sweet.
Acceptable.
Muted.
So I had this other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound crazy or anything, but I feel like, well, more crazy than I already am. Thanks, John. I already preempted your statement. So I feel like there's a lot of scenarios out there. And I love, how much choice there is out there for scenarios, past, future, present, in all the different systems. But I feel like in this horror investigation genre, we're kind of pigeonholed into three kind of tropes to introduce investigators or a party of investigators to the mythos. And those would be the first one, which would be like accident or happenstance. You go someplace, do something, are somewhere, and the mythos, something is happening with the mythos, and it just kind of rolls over you like a freight train. The second would be the inheritor. You inherit some sort of knowledge, location, artifact, other sort of details that kind of point you towards the mythos or something strange, and then the mythos rolls over you like a freight train. Then there's the deeper investigation where you're an academic, a journalist, some sort of, you're on some sort of investigation, expedition, something like that. For something occult or non-occult, or intellectual, educational, personal, and you stumble upon clues or signs or something that points you towards something strange or the mythos, and then you get into it and it rolls over you like a freight train. But those are basically
I'm seeing a pattern.
Yeah, those are basically, regardless of the ending, good, bad, in between, or freight train. It seems like those three types of situations are kind of difficult to break out of in creating ways to introduce parties or investigators to the mythos in scenarios.
Well, so you're not necessarily saying that those are bad methods. You're just wondering if there are
they're not
other
bad
methods.
Exactly. I've been trying to, in my own dabbling recently, trying to break out of the mold of those three tropes. And whenever I'm trying to come up with ideas, it always seems to be different variations of those ideas, however crazy and different they may be. It's just very. It was something that occurred to me. It's very interesting because it always seems to be. Historically, I see a lot of those ideas and variations of.
The only other method that I can think of about getting into the mythos wouldn't be a Call of Cthulhu scenario. It wouldn't feel Call of Cthulhu because that other method would be purposeful. Someone went looking for it because they knew it was there, and they were just going to go and fight it, I guess.
Okay.
So
Or
if it's purposeful, you're almost kind of taking away. It feels like on first blush you're taking away any kind of deep horror that could occur.
or maybe you're talking about like the cultist aspect of it, where maybe you play a mythos monster or a mythos cultist that is actively maybe like an evil campaign, if you want to think of it in fantasy terms.
Okay.
Yep, that's an exception.
Where you're playing the bad guy.
Although, what's the hook? What's the hook for the bad guys?
Immortality.
Maybe the good guys have already gotten the artifacts and the knowledge to complete the ritual that your cult needs to complete.
And how does that present itself to the evil cultists?
Well, I don't know, Chad. I'm going to give away all my secrets.
Unlimited Starbucks.
Well, oh man, John blew my mind going into modern.
Well, what I was getting at, I've got sirens. No, that's people screaming. That's actually people screaming.
You've been opened up to more of the mythos. Very good. The real horrors of your neighborhood.
That is seriously a messed up sound. I think it's cheering, but it sounds like labored. Anyway,
just as long as we can hear you, Chad, we're okay.
Yeah, sorry, I was distracting. But what I was kind of getting at there is, I think even when you switched modes with your evil guys, like how do you're still going to be presenting your evil guys with some kind of happens to or inheritance
or deeper investigation.
Pretty much, right? I mean, they're investigators too. It's just they have different ends.
Exactly. It's a different side of the same coin. So it's very interesting to break out of those three, I don't know, tropes or themes or whatever you want to call it.
Now, I can't help but get a little bit psychedelic here because I'm sorry, but I can't stop thinking about how you sort of stumbled on a problem of metaphysics. Because
existentialism?
Well, not exactly, but I suppose related. But there's subject, object, and the in between, and there's the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, and there's happens to and happens because of, and the in between. I think what you've got here is a Trinity. Maybe going too far out, but happenstance. It happened to you from the outside. The deeper investigation is something that you is player driven, even though you're presented with information that makes it sort of seem like you're.
So the difficulty is not in creating the idea. The difficulty is in the intrinsic limitation of our humanity, in who we are as humans trying to create a game for humans that is with hooks not of this world, which we can't understand.
Yeah, which is exciting because it
pass the bong this way, man.
But seriously, like the inheritor part, it is both inside and outside. That's sort of like the Holy Ghost part, where it's part God and part Son. But the God is from the outside. And the GM is everything that happens from the outside of you. The player is everything that happens from the inside of you, and the soul or the avatar or the the embodiment. I'm trying to think of the Buddhist word that I cannot think of right now, but the it's not the Brahmin. It might be Brahma. Damn it! I don't.
The
I'm not-
insert future correction here.
Anyway, but don't you think that really is kind of the limitation here? Is that there's just it's either a combination of inside and outside, or it's inside or it's outside. The cause, the hook, the thing that draws you forward.
Well, yes. I mean, now that you got all philosophical on me, then I would definitely agree. It's hard to kind of think of any other kind of force than those.
I do have to say, though, that I think the wiggle room, because yours are not so large as being object, subject, and in between, yours are more specific categories, and things happening to you by accident or happenstance, that's all outside. That's a kind of extreme. But that middle ground where you're talking about inheritor, where you've inherited an issue, so it's happened both to you and you have agency.
Right.
There seems to be wiggle room in there. Maybe it'll still fall into that category, but there seems to be more variety possible there.
Mm-hmm.
No?
John, thoughts?
It's interesting because I've never seen it expressed in these terms before, and so I'm trying to think about some of the things that I've written or some of the things that I've read. I mean, this. I think these are true, and you've identified them, and been able to express it this way because they're true because they work. And I guess I'm at a loss to discover or conceive of a fourth trope or fourth hook, whatever it is that we want to call this, that outside of purposeful. I was thinking about purposeful, but maybe that it would be with deeper investigation and that kind of thing, or purposeful as an inheritor. But thinking purposeful being someone not as a bad guy, but someone as a hero, if we want to use those terms, who's fully informed and aware of the horrors that are out there and is charging in to lead the cavalry in to take care of business. To me, that seems like while it could be a possible method for introducing and trying to engage with the mythos, it certainly doesn't, even from a pulp standpoint, that doesn't seem like a very intriguing one that I would think would be fun to play. Even with pulp, I think it's more fun, inheritor, deeper investigation, or certainly also with happenstance or an accident. But gosh, I think you did a really good job in being able to identify these and express them like this. I just don't know if there's a need to go and find a different way to get into the mythos.
Sure there is. It's just something that's been plaguing my mind as I've been trying to write in my free time. And I'm glad that it's a brain teaser, because I would challenge anyone to find a different, avenue. Not that there needs to be one, but it was stumping me, so I figure I'd bring it up to you guys.
I think you stumbled on something kind of interesting here. I mean, taxonomy is not a small thing to have as a tool. And, one thing that does occur to me is that maybe the variety can come from combos, or you think it's one thing and it turns into another, or, staying within the three, because I I still have trouble figuring out how to get out of it. But
Don't worry, me too.
but you know, so like you can be on an investigation that comes from the inside, in the sense of being, you're already assigned to do something, and then it becomes you stumble on the mythos. But you can then have accident or happenstance. Well, here's a problem. in fiction and in the game, if you're going to have coincidence, I think conventional wisdom is you have those coincidences happen first, because then it's part of the premise that we all accept, and the suspension of disbelief is much higher.
Well, yes, but then it becomes a deeper investigation.
What does? When?
A happenstance or an accident happening early in the game. Then it just changes to the other trope.
Yes. Right. Yes. Well, it does anyway. I think that's also true, that there's combinations of these already existing.
If that happenstance is investigated, it could just simply be left to lie.
Well, but this is all assuming that when presented, the better story option is taken.
Oh, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I think that I wrote one that is one turning into another. Max, you played in it, and I have to talk around it because it's not out. But the players are asked to look into something, and there is a kind of investigation phase that is player driven, and then something happens to them that's outside of their control.
Peekaboo.
Right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It involves the ocean.
I do recall this thing that you are talking of. And I don't think it went well. I don't think it went well for us.
Not for the well, wait. Did it? What do you mean? The story didn't go well?
No. The story was amazing.
Well,
but I don't think our players
the player characters didn't do well.
Yeah,
No.
Story was great. And you know, that's again to reinforce, I didn't bring this up to criticize any of these tropes or the wide variety of variations that authors can create with these tropes, or whatever you want to call them, themes.
I think you're
interesting.
Sort of like, hey guys, I got a complaint. Body or mind body? Which is it?
And then everyone just blocks me. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's yeah. Thanks guys. That helped. It's very interesting.
I don't think we did anything.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, I think we started this discussion. I think it's going to be ongoing for a while. So it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, let's clarify at the end, because I want to throw to the listeners to see if we can come up with an example that falls well outside of these three categories of hook for getting investigators involved. One, something happens to them. We're talking about sort of survival horror kind of tropes where you're in a situation, things go bad. You're locked somewhere, you're trapped somewhere, right? That's kind of the trope there. Accident or happenstance.
Well, locked somewhere, trapped somewhere, or just are somewhere. For example.
True.
Deadlights.
That's accident or happenstance.
Yes.
I actually don't know Deadlights, so I can't.
You could say that it does kind of turn into deeper investigation, and depending upon your perspective, it might be inheritor.
Right. Well, I mean, to start, it's kind of just accident, happenstance.
That's true.
But yeah, so accident, happenstance. You're in the wrong place at the wrong time, basically.
Yeah, so that's one. The second one is you have called it inheritor, but it's basic. Well, actually, you say what inheritor is.
Yeah. So the inheritor, you receive or inherit or whatever type of descriptor you want to use, where you get something, receive something. Um, Either knowledge, a mythos tome,
You're continuing
artifact.
something that was in progress.
Correct. Correct. Or at least hints to something that someone wanted you to know or find out or research. Um, that's pretty much the inheritor. You get something, it leads you to the mythos.
Right. I think we included possession is a kind of from the inside and yet from the
Right.
outside. Yeah.
Right. And then there's the deeper investigation, where you're already on some sort of academic, historical, archaeological pursuit of some nature, and you stumble upon or are actively searching for,
Or you're hired.
or are hired to
Yeah.
search for something that relates to the mythos.
I would say
Probably
the
the most
haunting.
common. Yeah.
Yeah, I would think the haunting is a classic example of
Yeah.
deeper investigation.
Right. Ghost hunters.
Ironically, the inheritor is actually a deeper investigation. The scenario called the inheritor.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Irony.
Yes.
As it happens. Maybe we should list in the show notes some iconic examples together, just over email. So
Yeah,
I mean,
let's.
like you said, the hauntings are really good. Deeper investigation, I think that's maybe the most common. Accident or happenstance, I would say. Grace under pressure or
One shots, basically one shots. A lot of one shots.
Yeah.
I see.
survival horror.
The new Alone Against the Flame solo adventure with the quick start rules is a happenstance.
Okay.
Right.
Inheritor. What are examples of that one?
I'm wondering about one of the you know how in I think there's one with Mr. Corbett, funny because of the name association with the haunting, but a Hort scenario in there that feels inheritor to me, but
The Pale God?
the Pale God. The Pale God feels like an inheritor to me.
Yeah.
There's also another scenario. I'm trying to remember. It also involves Ihort, where the characters all begin and it's a blank slate. Because what they don't, I mean, spoilers.
Oh.
It's an old scenario, but you know,
Well,
because in that scenario, the player characters are really doing a discovery of themselves to find out what happened. Why are they in the scenario, in the situation that they're in? And that's a situation that
that's
they've
a
kind
pretty
of inherited,
great twist on the deeper investigation.
I've got one that maybe some of you have heard about. It's called Masks of Nyarlathotep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that starts out as the inheritor. You get this
yeah,
information,
you're picking up.
Yeah.
You're picking up where Jackson Elias left off.
and then it becomes a deeper investigation.
Sure.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, spoilers.
Inheritor almost seems. Yeah. Spoilers.
30
Inheritor
30
almost seems like
old
one
spoilers.
that almost works better in literature and may be a little more difficult to to transfer to the gaming table, but I think the initial hook could certainly be classified as inheritor for sure.
Yeah, that's an interesting mind game that you have inflicted on me. Thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, we were talking about sanity earlier, so
Yeah. I
Kinda
think I
fits.
made my sanity, but my sanity check, but the loss is not 0.
Perfect.
All right. So I put a button on this, guys.
Yeah, I think so.
think
Thank you
so.
guys for very much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure.
That was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun having you on here, Max. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. You know, took you long
You'll
enough.
notice I updated the show bumpers to throw Max in there too, Chad.
Oh, sure. Okay. We want to hear from. Oh, Max, do you want to pull up the end of the, not the very end, but the middle?
Yeah.
You want to read one of these?
Let me pull this
You're still
up.
in the notes, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I should be, but somehow my screen switched monitors. Let's see here.
Wow.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'm ready.
You see your section?
I do.
I gave you the best section.
I
The
know.
longest one.
Thank you, John.
We want to hear from our listeners, and we have a lot of ways you can reach out to us.
For the complete list, check out our show notes for our email address, which is now MUP- do that one.
Yep, that's not a dash.
That's not a dash.
Didn't even get to my part, John. Thanks.
Nope, didn't even get there. All right. For the complete list, check out our show notes. And for our email address, which is now mup.@gmail.com, as well as the phone number, SpeakPipe link, and our forums.
Send us your questions, feedback, and topic ideas, or join a discussion. Record a liner, tell us who you are, and give us a hearty "Go Pods" for our home team, the Fightin' Cephalopods.
Thank you to our patrons. Want to become a patron? Find out how in the show notes for this episode and find all the links you need to keep in touch at mu-podcast.com/5.
Thank you for joining us for another episode. Class is dismissed.
Did you see that, Chad? As a professional, I handled the 125 without having to be corrected.
Yeah, that was good. Didn't I correct it at the same time?
Not at the same time, not on my screen. There was a delay, so it was still,
okay.
it was still.
I was racing. I was like, oh god, get there.
I'm not Murph.
I know. You're not a
Jesus.
robot.
All right, kill the Zen.
Definitely kill the Zen.
Kill the Zen, and I'm going to stop recording, which I think I just pushed this button again.
I think I can. Yeah, I
Okay.
can stop the broadcast.